Hello, guys. I'm not in today because I am out in training, so I still expect you to do what you're supposed to be doing. Make sure you're working on the warm up and showing all your work and doing the action part for the problem solving. So I'm not going to go ahead and go over the warm up. If you need answers to any of this, you could ask the substitute teacher. They will be able to help you out on that. So just make sure you're working on that and you're using your time wisely. She's only going to set, or he or she, the substitute is only going to set up a time limit of 5 minutes. So make sure that you are working on that. Once the time is up, you're putting this away and then taking out your composition book because there's things that you need to tape in. So let's go ahead and get this done. The substitute teacher would stop the video now so you could get that going. Okay, now that you've done the warm up, where you're going to go ahead and turn in your homework from yesterday. Remember, you were supposed to be putting those numbers in the appropriate subset or the group, the category that you needed to put in. So make sure you actually turn this in. Before you turn it in, make sure that everybody has their name. Remember, one person per group is the person that's collecting them in the group and then turning them in. I don't want all of you to stand up and go turn it in. It has to be one person per group. So the substitute teacher will stop the video now so you could do that now. Okay, so now that we took care of the warm-up and the homework, what I need you to do is there's going to be 3 pages that you picked up today. If you don't have them, this is the time to go. So if the substitute teacher needs to stop the video, she needs to do that now, or he needs to do that now. So make sure you go get the 3 papers that you need, and then wait until further directions or instructions. Okay, now that you have all 3 pages, there's 2 half sheets, and they're both going to go in your composition book. This half sheet is going to be glued in on the left side on the next page of yesterday's notes. And then the other half sheet, which will be the next one, will be on the right side. So there's 2 half sheets. This is the one to glue your on your composition book. So those you're gonna go ahead and glue them or tape them. So I'm gonna give you some time. The substitute teacher will actually stop the video so you could get that going or get that ready. Okay, so now that you have everything taped in, what we're gonna do, this is a place value chart. And what you're looking at the place values after the decimal. So anything that you have after this decimals, that's what you're looking at. And if you notice, they have the decimal, the fraction, and what it's called. So looking at that, after the decimal, you have 0.1, which also is as a fraction as 1/10, and then we call it the tens place. 2 decimal places afterwards, you have 0.01, you have 1 over 100, and that's going to give you hundredths place. Then you have the thousands place values, which is 0.001, which is 1 over 1,000, and again, that's the thousands place. And then the last one that we're looking at is 0.0001, which is 1/10,000, and the place value is called 10,000s. So now that we're clear, let's think of a number with a decimal. So most of the times you're going to see a number with a decimal, and it's going to have a 0 in the front. So then I would have the decimal there. So then you have 0.15. So in this case, when you have something like this, you would read it as 15 thousands, because thousands is the last place value. Now, this is your decimal. The way it would look as a fraction, you write 15, because it's in the thousands place, you're going to put 1,000 right under it. So whenever you're trying to convert a decimal to a fraction, you actually are just reading it, writing it, and simplifying it. So the next half sheet, we're going to go ahead and take a few notes, and we're going to practice some together, and then you're going to do some on your own. So the large paper with the front and back, that's going to be your classwork homework, and then the other half sheet is your notes page. So go ahead and go to the next page, and I'll do the same too. So here is your converting from decimals to fractions. So you're going to go ahead and convert the decimal to a fraction. So we're going to read it, write it, and then simplifying it. So read it is you're going to use your words. So this is going to be 32. Well, actually, it's going to be 320. And because it's the place value, the 0 is going to be in what place value? The thousands place. So it's 320 thousands. Okay, now I'm going to write it in numbers. So I'm going to write 320 over 1,000. Now, if you look at this carefully, you could actually cross out those numbers. So you could cross out the zeros, and that's simplifying it by 100, and that gives you that number. But then you could also continue simplifying it. So 32 over 100, if you divide it by 4, and you could use 2, you could use 4, you could use any number that actually is compatible with those numbers, which means it's divisible by that number. So 32 divided by 4 is 8. And 100 divided by 4 is 25. So then my simplified decimal is going to be 8 over 25. So we converted a decimal into a fraction. So that means they are equivalent, and that's how we actually convert. So let's look at the next example. The next example, you're going to read it as 6. And so the decimal is going to be the word and, 95. And since the 5 is in the hundreds place, you're going to say hundreds. So now that we have it written, we're going to write it as a number. So it's 6. 6 is still a whole number, so we're leaving it as a whole number, over 95. 95 over 100. So now we're going to go ahead and simplify, and we could simplify this by dividing by 5. So we're still keeping the 6. 95 divided by 5, if you think about it, it's going to be 19. 100 divided by 5 is going to be 20. So 6 and 95 hundredths will simplify as a fraction to 6 and 19 twentieths. So very simple. All you have to know is the place values, and you could use the notes page, the previous one that we were looking at, to help you out find the place value. So let's get ready to practice. So let's go ahead and practice on this next one. So here is your notes page. Here is, we actually are using now the place value chart, and we're going to go ahead and work on that. So what we do, we're going to take this number and put them in the places that it belongs, and then we're going to write it as a number and then simplify it. So let's go ahead and get started. So the first thing we do is we're going to go ahead and put 0.6. So 0's here, point is there, and then there's 6. So then I would write it as 6 over 10. And then 6 tenths, I'm simplifying it by 2, and that gives us 3 over 5. Okay, let's do number 2. Number 2, we have 1 and 2 and 0.25, so it's going to be 1.25. So remember, whenever we have a whole number, we leave the whole number there. So I'm going to write it as 1 and 25 over, what's the place value? It's 100, so I'm going to put 100. Then I'm going to go ahead and keep the 1, put 25 over 100, and I'm simplifying it by 25. So divided by 25, and this becomes 1 and 1/4. So again, whenever you have a whole number, you leave it alone and you keep working with the fraction. So make sure that if you have a whole number as a decimal, you also have a whole number as a fraction. So what you're gonna do now, I'm gonna have you do number 3 by yourself. The substitute teacher would stop the video so you can work on that. And when you're done, the substitute teacher will go ahead and restart the video so you could go ahead and see if you had the answer correct. Okay, so now that you already did it on your own, your answer should be 37 over 50. So if you didn't do it correctly, make sure you check your work. I actually showed it here. So once you're done, let the substitute teacher know. That way we could continue on. Okay, now that we have all the tools that you need, you have your notes page, and then you also have your reference page, which is your decimal place value. This is going to be your classwork, and it becomes homework if you're not done in class. So make sure that you are using this information and you are working with that. Make sure you copied all your notes, and make sure that you're working on it. Again, if you are not done by the end of the class, then this will become your homework. So good luck on that, and if you need any help, make sure you let the substitute teacher know. Have a great day.